That's not how it works. You're gonna be eating the 225 grams of sugar, but your body's not gonna get to store any of it because it's gonna use all of it to keep you alive. It's gonna use it to make sure your metabolism is running. Chris here, and today I want to talk to you guys a little bit about my favorite tips to losing body fat. These are just kind of some generic things that I like to do. This isn't an actual program or a guideline to how to set up a diet, like your protein, your calories, how much cardio should I be doing, how do I track my progress. There's none of that. With that being said, if you don't got a plan in place, you know who to go to. Email me at chrisshinotraining@gmail.com, or you can slide into my DMs on Instagram. That's chrisshinotraining. Now, to get started, my first favorite thing that I love to do, setting up my calories for the day. I like to have a smaller breakfast, followed by a bigger lunch, followed by a medium-sized dinner. And in between that, I also will have fruits or a low-calorie, high-volume snack, such as either it'll be an apple or it'll be berries usually. These types of things are full of water, full of fiber, and micronutrients, as well as, they're just low on calories, so they can fit in anywhere. If it's 100, 200 calories worth of fruit, you can fit that anywhere in your diet. That's going to equate to about 5 to 10% of your calories for the whole day, and it can act as a great little pre-workout snack or just a filler in between. Makes a ton of sense, right? For my breakfast, what I usually like to do is have some sort of a nice balanced breakfast. Usually I will have bread. Bread will not make you fat. Carbs are not the devil. They give you a ton of energy, and they're very satiating if you pick the right ones that you kind of enjoy to have, such as maybe an English muffin or two, different types of whole wheat, whole grain toasts, so that they have some fiber. And a lot of these breads nowadays have added a lot of fortified things, kind of like omega-3, so they're almost like a supplement, especially the one I like to use, the Stone Mill Bakery. They have a great bread. I really recommend that one, the chia seed flavor. And at lunchtime, I'll usually have some kind of a higher protein meal, higher calorie meal. So usually if I'm breaking up my diet, right, I'm gonna give at least 40% of my calories to my lunch. So it'll usually be something like a rice, a meat, and a vegetable, or a pasta with a meat and a vegetable. Or I'll go kind of more veganish, plant-based. I'll use like chickpeas and some kind of another carb source on top of that. So you're getting a good blend of protein, carbs, and you can also add some kind of a fat to that meal, so it kind of slows your digestion. Fiber and fats both slow digestion down, so they can help you with satiation, which is another big word of saying feeling full. And that's one of the reasons why people like to cheat on their diets, is they're not feeling full enough. The second reason why people cheat on their diets is because they're not allowed to have the things they want. See, the whole idea of excluding full groups of food is that it will be an easier way of, not having to think about what you're putting into your body necessarily. And that might kind of sound counterintuitive. Most people think, well, I'm excluding something, that I am thinking about my diet, but you're really not. You're kind of being lazy about it. And here's why. If you were to actually track, the calories and macronutrients that are going in, you would be allowed to have anything you wanted as long as it fits within your daily allowance. When you just cut out a full food group, you could still overeat those calories. For example, the ketogenic diet, people will cut out all of carbs, but then all of a sudden now they're eating bricks of cheese and bacon and friggin', every single thing that has like 90% of its calories derived from fat. Come on, guys. Like, if you're over consuming calories in general, you're still gonna gain weight. There's no magic to it. And all these myths about, if I have these types of foods, my hormones are gonna change and it's gonna promote more fat loss because this has been shown to decrease ghrelin or increase leptin. So now I'm gonna, or it's gonna not affect insulin in a certain way. At the end of the day, guys, the major component of, food intake and its effects on our hormones is based on whether or not you are in a deficit or you aren't. For example, I could be eating all sugar, but if I was in a major deficit, my whole diet, say I was only eating 900 calories a day, and those 900 calories a day came from, 225 grams of carbohydrates, of sugar even. Guess what? You are still gonna burn a ton of fat. You're gonna burn a ton of muscle too, because you have nothing, stimulating the muscle. You have no protein, amino acids go into it. But you're in such a severe deficit. That's a massive deficit. If the average person needs 2,000 calories, it's over a 50% reduction. guess what your hormones are gonna do? Your body's not gonna just be like, oh, well, I'm only getting sugar, and sugar means I'm going to store fat. No, that's not how it works. You're gonna be eating the 225 grams of sugar, but your body's not gonna get to store any of it because it's gonna use all of it to keep you alive. It's gonna use it to make sure your metabolism is running. So that's the point I'm trying to get across, is what you necessarily eat doesn't necessarily matter. However, obviously that comes with a massive caveat, because we have to think about the real world and how the real world works, right? When you eat certain foods that are very high in sugar, you do not feel as full for as long, okay? You're going to burn through that very quickly, and it's just not the same type of fuel that you want, okay? That's not saying you can't have any of it. I think you should have carbohydrates. I even think you should have some sugar, because the idea that giving yourself that kind of a sweet reward every day in moderate small amounts, that to me makes a lot more sense than crashing your diet for 6 days and then on the 7th day eating tenfold the calories that you burned during the 6 days in sugars and stuff. How is that any healthier than just having a little bit of it every single day? That's kind of where that 80-20 rule applies, where it's like, if I'm getting a diet of 2,000 calories, 80% of that is going to come from clean food, 20% of that is going to come from foods that I like, and that might not be quote unquote clean or micronutrient heavy, right? So if I have 2,000 calories, 20% of that is about 400. So 400 of my calories every day I'm going to give towards things that aren't necessarily super clean. But the other 80%, I'm going to make sure that stuff is tight. I'm going to make sure that it's coming from vegetables, fruits. It's going to be coming from whole grains. It's going to be coming from healthy fat sources. Generally coming from, if I'm in a diet, I'm going to make sure those are coming from my protein sources, so they're paired. I'm not going to be adding as much additional stuff. I would like peanut butters and stuff like that. I mean, sure, they're okay for you, they're okay, but they're very calorie dense. And fat in general has 9 grams per calorie, so, or 9 calories per gram, I should say, my apologies. So basically what I'm saying is, if we are in a diet, we need to make sure that we are setting it up in the proper way. So breakfast for me, I like to make sure it's a smaller meal. That's just because I'm not as hungry in the morning. There's science that shows that cortisol, if you sleep on a normal human schedule, that is going to be kind of highest then, and when cortisol is high, your body isn't going to be as hungry. But that's just the theory behind it, and circadian rhythms. You can look into that more. There's tons of great resources for that online, and just how that affects it. This isn't 100% how everybody's going to feel hungry when at what times. This is just saying the general person is probably going to kind of follow this kind of schedule. We're going to make sure that our calories are majorly put around midday when we need them the most, because usually people are training in the afternoon after work, or they're just not trying to crash around 2 p.m. So having a little bit of a bigger meal that's going to fuel you through that is going to be very important. And then at dinner time, that's when I typically will have a moderate sized meal. And the reason for that is carbohydrates, especially. People used to think that having carbs before bed would make you fat automatically. We all know that that's not necessarily true. That overconsumption of calories is what makes us gain stored body fat. But what we do know for a fact is having a little bit of glucose before bed, or carbohydrate, can help us with our sleep, and it can actually promote the idea of this increase in our melatonin, and that's because carbohydrates, if they're in the system, they can help spare the protein that we're having along with it. The amino acid tryptophan can convert into the sleep hormone, into melatonin, which naturally acts in our brain as something that kind of gets us to wind down. Obviously, there's other things you can do to promote good sleep. However, this is just one thing on the diet side that can help. So having a little bit of carbs before bed, not bad, actually good, promotes sleep. Guess what sleep does? It helps you recover your muscles and your freaking brain, for that matter. It also helps us with losing water retention. So if you are sleeping, your stress should be lower. That's just an obvious. So if your stress is lower, your overall cortisol is going to be lower, and you're not going to be in this state of inflammation or whatever. And you're not going to be holding as much water the next morning. So this can also help us, stay away from having these crazy weight swings day to day, and can help us avoid making unnecessary adjustments week to week when it was just a skew in the data that we received because we didn't get enough sleep. So sleep's super important too. Overall, guys, I would just recommend this. Try to have a smaller breakfast, maybe about 20% of your total calories for the day. Have a bigger lunch, 40%, and then have a moderate size dinner, about 30% of your calories, and then 10% to a snack, so like your berries or whatever. And then within those 100% of your total daily calories, you can throw in a percentage of that as your cheat meal. So that doesn't mean that now, okay, I also get 20% of, not that equals 120%. You can't do that. What you're gonna do is you're going to take your calories that are already allotted and say for dinner time, I'm gonna take that meal and I'm gonna just make sure that a few hundred of those calories are gonna be a snack in there as well that I enjoy. Or in the middle of the day when I'm having my bigger meal, I might throw in a Rice Krispie bar. I might throw in, you know, a bag of Doritos, like one of those mini bags, not a whole. No one's fitting a full bag of Doritos into their macros. Maybe some people who are very, very active. But maybe I'll have one of those like 300, 400 calorie mini bags as a snack after I eat my dinner. So I might have a little bit of a smaller dinner and then I'll have my snack as well. So just thinking about when do you feel the most hungry? When do you have the most energy? And then allotting your calories based on that, okay guys? Hopefully that made sense. Hopefully you guys kind of got something valuable out of that and that you can start structuring your diets a little bit better. I will be talking in another video about how many calories should I be eating and how do I adjust my calories week to week based on the results that I'm seeing, okay guys? So be in tune for that one. It's coming out soon. Make sure you subscribe, hit that little bell button, and like this video, share with all your friends. I'm out.